to move the needle on poverty. The ACDP therefore calls that we move to assist communities and remove
Thank you very much.
bureaucracy and serve the people that we are meant to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. UDM, ATM, good. NFP, AIC, good. PAC, Al-Jama, ANC. NFP.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The ANC National Congress stands to welcome the Q3 and Q4 reports as introduced. Honorable Mvana.
Honorable members. Julle kan nie almal net dieselfde tyd praat nie. Continue, ma.
The African National Congress stands to welcome the Q3 and Q4 report as introduced by Honorable Mvana. The tabling of this National Congress stands to welcome the important aspect of the budget cycle that shapes the work of Parliament and is critical of this program of the strengthening governance system and ensuring accountability to the public in line with the critical first program priority of the medium-term strategic framework to build capable and ethical and developmental state. In the 2020-2021 financial year, the country was confronted with COVID-19, which was an issue to be taken into consideration in line with the services delivery agenda of government. This was done in such a way that the management of the pandemic will not negatively affect the achievement of targets out of the year under review. Most significant in this respect is the decision to roll out social relief of distress grant as a way to alleviate the financial pressure of the unemployed between the age of 18 and 59 as far as possible, protect the livelihood of millions of South Africans who have been displaced by the consequences of COVID-19 on the economy, among others. In the third quarter, it's notable that the department saw a fluctuation of performance between Q2, 3, and 4, with a plugging of the overall performance notice in Q3. However, the independence improved, the department improved in the quarter of the financial year in the last quarter of the financial year 2020-2021. The improvement of the department performance contributed to the department spending 99% of its allocated budget. Some of the key issues where some progress has been made include, but not limited to, Program 2 on social assistance. It is important to mention that successful should be considered as a reflection of the department prioritization of its core agenda, which is the protecting of the lives of the vulnerable people of our nation. Program 3 on social security policy and administration. Under this program, notable interventions were made, and the department has already put pressure in place of address the one target that was not achieved during the quarter. It is also important to appreciate the work done in order to deal with the unfortunate reality, fraudulent activity that had been identified under this program as flagged in the third quarter report. Program 4 focuses on welfare policy development and implementation support, 19 out of 25 targets were achieved, key among these being the development and finalization of the draft regulation of child amendment bill, the development of the draft monitoring tool on the implementation of the intersectoral protocol of the prevention of management of violence against children, children abuse, negligence, and exploitation, and consultation with KwaZulu-Natal and Western Cape on issue pertaining to the evolution of the sheltering system, which is one of the key responses to manage gender-based violence and protecting victims. Program 5 on the social policy and integrated service delivery. Some of the key interventions that have been achieved under this target include the development of the framework for program linked social protection beneficiary to sustainable livelihood opportunity. The framework is aimed at providing systematic aid to social services protection to mobilize community and facilitate community development process in standardized and uniform manner. Some of the concern highlighted by the portfolio committee reports, such as the failure to meet the long-standing target of information management system and technology and monitoring and evaluation, and inadequate reporting of the importance of policies that are adopted by the department to reflect how the policies meaningfully contribute to the agenda of transformation, community, and building a self-reliant citizenry. The portfolio committee has the responsibility to provide oversight of the work that undertaken by the department, safeguarding the interests of the nation and seeing to it that the mandate of government is not undermined and that the program where underperformance is persistent should be given the needed prioritization in order to take strengthened effort towards the failure that we all aspire toward, the future that we all aspire to, a future that has made inroads in confronting poverty and inequality. Chairperson, it is on this basis that the ANC welcome the quarterly report as tabled. Thank you, Chair.
Raleboga. I'll now recognize the Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I move that the House adopts the report. Thank you.
The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections?
House Chair Singumbuto with DIC Kaselangan.
Stokoze,
House Chair, can you please note the objection of the EFF?
noted,
Chairperson, and the objection of the FF plus.
noted. The report is thus far agreed to with the noting of those objections. The Secretary will read 15 and 16th order together.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, Science and Technology on 2020-21 fourth quarter and 2021-22 first quarter performance of Department of Higher Education and Training, and consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, Science and Technology on 2021 fourth quarter and 2021-22 first quarter financial and non-financial performance of the Department of Science and Innovation.
Let's invite the chairperson of Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, Science and Technology, Honorable Mkachwa, to present the reports.
Honorable House Chairperson, honorable members, citizens of South Africa, good evening. Allow me to present to you the fourth quarter reports of the DSI and DHET of 2020-2021 and the first quarter reports of the DSI and DHET for 2021-2022. On higher education and training in the 2020-2021 fourth quarter, the department achieved 72% of their planned targets and spent 99.6% of its budget. Whilst we acknowledge the impact of COVID-19 on performance, this performance was not satisfactory. We were gravely concerned that the department was not able to achieve the targets to conclude investigations on irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure within 19 days and pay invoices within 30 days. We have implored on the department to put measures in place to fast track the conclusion of investigations so that consequence management can be implemented against those officials who did not adhere to supply chain policy processes, causing the department to incur irregular expenditure. We must also acknowledge the department's development of norms and standards for the post-school education and training student housing, acknowledge the work on the draft framework to accommodate students with disabilities at TVET colleges, and acknowledge the massive reduction of the backlog on certification in the TVET sector. Day zero, honorable members, of the certification backlog has been a key program of this committee as certification speaks to ensuring that young people are active participants of the economy. For the first quarter of 2021-2022, the department achieved 67% of its planned targets and spent about 2.6 billion against the projected quarterly budget of 3.1 billion. In this quarter, we were concerned by the performance of the TVET program and implored on the department to put measures in place to address the causes of underachievement. We called for the filling of the DG and DDG university program position. Since then, the position of the DG has been filled with the appointment of Dr. Gosnati Sishi. We further recommended that the department consider the possibility of reviewing the CET Act to provide for ministerial powers to develop regulations to strengthen governance through development of governance standard regulations and regulations for the conduct of credible TVET examinations. Lastly, we recommended that the TVET colleges be given the necessary support to improve their capacity to manage and spend infrastructure efficiency grants, to improve the maintenance of their existing infrastructure and construction of new teaching and learning facilities. In relation to science and innovation, on the fourth quarter of 2020-2021, the department spent 98.4% of its budget and achieved 74% of its planned targets. The 2020-2021 financial year was dominated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which emphasized the importance of science and innovation to both prepare for and react to future crises, and highlighted the need to ensure that STI policies have direct impact on achieving socioeconomic and environmental sustainability, inclusivity, and resilience. Noteworthy examples included the genomic surveillance project that led to South Africa discovering the first variant of COVID-19. South Africa is recognized as a world leader in this regard and continues to participate in global networks to monitor the evolution of new variants, as well as evaluate the effects of new variants on neutralization and vaccines. Furthermore, a national COVID-19 data and decision support center, hosted and supported by technology developed by the CSIR, was established. This led to the establishment of the National Policy Data Observatory. The systems engineering and integration expertise gained through the department's work on the SKA ensured that we could build 20,000 ventilators in November 2020. Oh my God. In terms of the first quarter of 2021-2022, the department spent 1.1 billion, yet had planned to spend 1.7 billion and achieved 73% of its planned targets. Noting under expenditure in this quarter, we implored on the DSI to ensure that there are no contract delays and insufficient documentation needed to process transfer payments. We further implored on the DSI to ensure that young Black women are included in opportunities in this quarter, are included to render goods and services as part of the need for preferential procurement. A key achievement in this quarter was also the synchronization of indigenous knowledge from 2 IKS documentation centers to the central server of the information communication system of the National Recordal System. Honorable members, these are 4 reports presented in 5 minutes, and we ask that you consider and adopt these reports. Thank you so much, House Chair.
Thank you. Honorable members, declarations are allowed, and I start with the DA, Ms. King.
Chairperson and members at large, the Department of Higher Education and Training appropriations for 2020, 2021 and 2021-2022 were 106.5 billion and 115.6 billion respectively. During these periods under review, GBV at institutions of higher learning again came to the forefront when the University of Fort-Hare student Kayla Ntebeni were brutally murdered by a boyfriend, and when NSFAS were again faced with student funding shortfall for the 2021 academic year. DHET had 81 targets for the fourth quarter of 2020-2021, of which 58 were achieved, and 12 targets for the first quarter of 2021-2022, of which 8 were achieved. 10.8 million rand were reprioritized to higher health to address the COVID requirements in the CET sector. 6 million reprioritized to fund the shortfall for the write-off from fruitless and wasteful expenditure. 14.2 million were reprioritized to fund the shortfall on payment of leave gratuities resulting from termination of services, and 50 million reprioritized to NSFAS to fund the budget shortfall of 2020 and 2021. And for the 2021-2022 financial year, 3 billion reprioritized to NSFAS for the 2021 academic year. The 3 billion rand were made up of 2.5 billion from university earmark grants, 500 million rand from TVET college infrastructure and development grants, and 50 million from goods and services. The Department of Science and Innovation saw its first real increase in the budget since 2015, with an allocation of 8.8 billion rand in its 2020-2021 budget. However, the adjusted budget allocation revised the budget to 7.28 billion rand. 13 out of 37 targets were achieved in the fourth quarter of 2020-2021. The 2021-2022 budget increased to 8.9 billion rand, with 8 of the 22 targets not achieved in quarter one. Underspending of the budget during both quarters for programs 2, 4, and 5 amounted to delays in research, development, and support, socio-economic innovation partnership, and technology innovation, making it difficult to advocate for more funding for the DSI. University and TVET colleges did not receive real increases to their subsidies to offset increased operational costs, especially when funds are reprioritized to cover funding shortfalls. With the cost of living increasing exponentially, universities are more and more finding themselves stretching their budgets to relieve hunger of students, mostly those falling in the missing middle due to the effects of COVID-19, as in the case at the University of Johannesburg, which assists 670 students with hunger relief every month. Having to reprioritize funds away from the entrepreneurship skills development, resulting in self-sustainability in the long run being missed. Perpetuating mismanagement of the PSET sector in the increasing political pressure has left a legacy of misguided policy framework and fragmented skills and knowledge generation institutions which are not addressing the issues of skills development to deter the crippling unemployment. How long are we going to turn a blind eye that South Africa's pool of intermediate skills, especially artisanal skills, are too low to support national and sector development and growth? A review, rethink, and reimagining of the PSET sector is urgently needed to get skills development in South Africa back on track. What this ANC don't understand is that creating a master skills plan without critically reviewing the national skills development plan will not be solving the issue of critical skill shortages. What this ANC don't understand is that reprioritizing funds away from university and TVET colleges to fund NSFAS is only adding to massification of students' enrollment, which is not linked to critical skills. It is for this very reason the Department of Higher Education was sent packing when they could not present the committee with the ministerial task team reports on the National Skills Fund and the review of the funding model for students. There is one small window of opportunity with the draft policy of higher education institutional types to ensure private universities have the same status of public universities and to ensure that TVET colleges be brought into the higher education sector. The rush public
Ms.
participation.
King, your time
process-
is up.
We support the bill.
Thank you. EFF,
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, the EFF rejects the 2020-2021 fourth quarter and 2021-2022 first quarter performance reports of the Department of Higher Education because to endorse them would make us complicit to mediocrity and deliberate neglect of the sector. In a country rife with unemployment and an unskilled youth, critical targets were not met in terms of skills development in the 2020-2021 fourth quarter. Some of the targets which were not met include the target of 20,000 learners entering artisanal programs, target of 100,000 learners or students being placed in workplace-based learning programs, and the target of 146,000 learners being registered in skills development programs, and the target of 19,000 artisans to be found competent. This is a damning reflection of a higher education sector that is not developing skills. In the 2021-2022 first quarter, TVET colleges were once again deliberately sabotaged by the internal incompetence of the department, which saw the transfer of 179 million for TVET infrastructure not made because Mr. Ms first wanted the department's infrastructure oversight unit to be established before TVET infrastructure payments can resume. Ms failure to establish an oversight unit contributed to the continued failure to develop TVET infrastructure. Furthermore, the continued separate development between TVET colleges and universities, namely the disparities in terms of NSFAS allowances between the two sectors, is shameful. The TVET sector and the students within the sector ought to be the beacon of this country's developmental objectives, but sadly are treated as subhumans. Till today, NSFAS gives higher allowances for meals, accommodation, and transport to university students as opposed to TVET students, and this is disgraceful. The EFF will not endorse failure, incompetence, and deliberate separate development, which undermines the critical role of the TVET sector, and that is why we cannot endorse the support. Furthermore, House Chair, the EFF rejects the 2020-2021 fourth quarter and 2021-2022 first quarter financial and non-financial performance reports of the Department of Science and Innovation. The reports are reflective of a lackluster department which has no appreciation of the need for financial investment in state-led innovation that will respond to the socio-economic needs of the country. The performance in the fourth quarter of 2020-2021 and the first quarter of 2021-2022 was characterized by underspending in socio-economic innovation partnerships, research, development and support, and technology innovation. This begs the question then, what mandate is the department fulfilling when it underspends and what is critical to its very existence? The report reflects financial performance and non-performance during one of the deadliest pandemics which have confronted modern society. It reflects that there was no developmental intervention on the local development of vaccines by a department tasked with scientific innovation. There is no verifiable financial investment in research in renewable energy and how to rescue ESCOM to ensure the state remains at the center of energy generation and distribution. There is no innovative research or investment in the development of sophisticated railway networks to ease the transportation of goods and minerals, and there is no research or investment in innovation within aviation to ease the financial burden of air travel on ordinary people. What exactly is the Department of Science and Innovation utilizing its budget for that is responsive to the prevailing challenges in society? It seems as if it is a department that is preoccupied with existence in theoretical terms, with no meaningful contribution to the real challenges such as reorganizing apartheid spatial planning, responding to the energy crisis, and developing state pharmaceutical capacity. It is not only a report on non-performance, but perhaps a lack of purpose and non-existence. The EFF rejects all reports. Thank you very much.
thank you. IFP. IFP. Oh, Bubble 2.
Honorable Chairperson, the opportunity of reflecting of the Department of Higher Education and Training performance for 2020-2021 and 2021-22 provide with the ability to collect, identify key problems and relevant solutions. Therefore, the IFP cannot state enough how much we could discussions like this as they as the success of the department of the department directly correlate with the employability of the youth, young South Africa. Concerning the report,
Bangakuhluphi, ungaconcentrate kibo. Kubeka lapho.
concerning the report, we are disappointed to note the department delays in aligning the annual performance plan to the decadal plan. This delay the department ability to increase the available number of science, technology, and innovation program that will help development of and match the skills of our youth to the relevant employment opportunity. We wish to re-emphasize the commitment, the committee recommendation to the department to provide a written report of the external engagement processes to the decadal plan. so, so that the best possibility solution can be found to the addressing these delays. In our consideration of the program 4, with deals with the technical and vocational education and training, and the program 6, which deals with the community education and training, we were quite concerned about the targets that were not achieved, creating a comprehensive proposal for the expansion of the TVET colleges system is a target that should not fail to materialize, especially considering the higher unemployment rate and the critical skills.
Siyathokoza mhlonishwa.
I feel
Yes. Sithokoza. FF plus.
Honorable Chair, it's Boshoff here. I just want to ask permission not to open my camera as I have load shedding on this side of the country.
Proceed, no problem.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think if we look at-
Honorable members, we are still in the house. Sorry, Honorable Boshoff. I can hear you from where I'm seated, please. But you are talking to a person next door. So just lower your voices. Proceed, Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The sister departments of higher education and training and science and innovation is actually a tale of two departments. As the tale of two cities says, it was the best of times and the worst of times. The same could be said of these departments. If we look at higher education, it is a large, comprehensive department with many institutions, all the universities, all the technical colleges or TVET colleges, all the community colleges, all included in this one very large department. Also the National Student Aid Fund, NSFAS, which is a little bit of let's call it a running problem. It must be said that some of the problems in the Department of Higher Education has been ironed out with a new DG being appointed. It's no secret that the faction fighting within the ANC, and in this case actually within the SACP, was represented by the minister and the DG as it played out with the recent election of this chairperson of the SACP, where the minister and the ex-DG were pitted against one another. Just if too many people don't really, are not interested in what happens in the SACP, the minister won. It seems as if there are some signs of the department getting direction, but the main problem is that too much is actually put in the corner of the state to execute. The universities which perform well are those universities who actually operate as if they have nothing to do with the department, who really work with their own academical community, with the communities of ex-students, with alumni, and with a wide variety of international partners, while the universities which are very dependent on the department underachieve. The same goes for TVET colleges, which are fully under the control of the department and don't even have something like a school governing body or a similar way in which the local community really takes ownership of the colleges. And I think that's a very important reason why they underperform so badly. On the other hand, we have the Department of Science and Innovation, which is led by a notable internationally acclaimed scientist who, luckily for us and for the department, has the ability to both lead the department as a manager and as a scientist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time is up. UDM, ATM, good. NFP, AIC, COPE, PAC, Al-Jama, ANC.
Honorable House Chair, honorable members. Thank you very much.
If they keep
One of
talking,
the
take
central
your
roles
time.
which we must play as members of parliament is our constitutional obligation of oversight of the executive. This is a task parliament undertakes through various mechanisms as prescribed by the rules of parliament and through the various structures of parliament. Portfolio committees play a critical role in executing this constitutional obligation. Portfolio committees are the base of scrutiny and oversight as required by the Constitution. As the African National Congress, the higher education, science, and innovation portfolio is a key priority. And at all times, we play a vital oversight role over the executive because as a portfolio committee, our approach is to also contribute to the work of the department through recommendations and critical engagements to ensure the department succeeds in its mandate. The current socio-economic conditions require a post-schooling education and training system which responds to the problems facing the nation, and skills development is a key mandate of the department to integrate the youth into the mainstream economy. In the report for the fourth quarter of 2020-2021 and the first quarter report of 2021-2022 for higher education, the department achieved 72% of its planned targets. What is of concern is the underperformance of the community education and training program on digital skills program in CET colleges that was approved, which was achieved outside of the time frame, and the target to approve entrepreneurship programs in CET colleges. These two targets are critical for skills development in the digital economy and the nature of work today, which has a large use of information technology and communication systems. We are currently facing high levels of youth unemployment with a high number of youth not in education, employment, or training. This requires multiple interventions. But entrepreneurship is an important skill which can enable people to open micro businesses and small businesses which support many livelihoods. Small enterprises employ between 50 and 60% of South Africa's workforce and contribute around 34% of GDP. Therefore, we ought to ensure the entrepreneurship curriculum is finalized for training. In the university program, the department overspent through an authorized virement to provide additional funding for National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS, to cover a portion of their budget shortfall for the 2021 academic year. I should also hasten to say that applications for NSFAS funding have opened and all our young people should apply. And we will make sure that NSFAS carries its mandate and play oversight that no one who deserves to be funded is left out of the funding. Part of our recommendation is for the department to highlight its performance compared with the medium-term strategic framework targets to ensure alignment of programs and assess progress in critical targets of the 6th administration. In this report, we have recommended a review of the student funding model to ensure parity of allowances disbursed to students in both the TVET and university sectors, particularly meals, accommodation, and transport allowances. The skewed distribution of the higher education budget is inconsistent with the vision of the National Development Plan. And our point on parity is part of ensuring technical and vocational education and training colleges are adequately funded to advance the skills revolution, which will benefit many young people. We need to develop TVETs as institutions of choice in our education system. And this requires adequate funding and ensuring curriculum relevance. We have also recommended that the CET sector, the community education training sector, needs adequate funding to improve its development and expand access to more out-of-school youth and adults. Without adequately supporting community education training colleges and the technical and vocational education and training colleges, we create conditions for reproducing unemployable citizens. As the world changes with an increase in digitization, we ought to ensure all South Africans have access to continuous skills development. We must also leverage technology to make skills development accessible and fashionable. For this reason, we recommended that CET lecturers be provided with digital devices to improve their digital skills. As the African National Congress, we support this report and recognize the department's strides in the work done during the reported period, which was under the pandemic. The department did steer the post-schooling education and training system during a challenging period. And now, I want to correct something that the Honorable Member King mentioned on us making the department pack their bags and leave us. It was not because of the report of the ministerial task team. It was because they did not bring and submit the reports, not because of the content of the reports, but because they did not bring the reports to the committee. And we also must also admonish and reprimand Honorable Tambo from the EFF. He must attend meetings.
Thank you very much. The time is up.
He must attend meetings.
On a point of
Order.
order, don't lie. And why you
Thank
reprimand Tom? We will never reprimand
Yeah,
anyone of the
time is
EFF when a bomb. We'll never reprimand anyone.
Honorable
Who the hell do you think you are?
Honorable Ntangwini.
Who
Hey,
you
we're
think you are?
reprimanding him, man.
Honorable
We're
Ntangwini.
reprimanding him.
When Honorable Ntangwini.
Anyone of the EFF. Who the hell do you
Honorable
think you are?
Ntangwini, don't hold us into ransom, please.
We're
Honorable
reprimanding him.
Ntangwini.
are reprimanding him.
Honorable Ntangwini, I never gave you permission to speak. You don't have a right to open the mic and start talking to somebody.
Who's he to
No.
reprimand members of the
Honorable
EFF?
Ntangwini, are you
That's not
tired?
correct, Chair.
Don't do that.
No, I'm
You-
not tired. I'm full of energy. I can still do another.
We
No,
are
I will-
reprimanding
don't-
you,
I will give you
Ntangwini, as well.
chance.
Don't patronize. me.
Honorable member,
Don't patronize. me.
honorable member, please leave the house. You can't argue with me. You can't argue with me. Please leave the house. I'm talking to you. You proceed. Please leave the house.
Yeah, and we are
Chair,
also,
Please, honorable, please, I'm addressing honorable, honorable Ntangwini, please. I'm addressing honorable Ntangwini. Before she leaves, I'm not taking any other order.
But
You can't do that.
Honorable Chairperson.
No.
I-
Until she leaves, I'll give you an opportunity after she has left.
But Honorable Chair.
Honorable,
Honorable Chairperson. we're almost done.
Sergeant at Arms, please assist Honorable Ntangwini to leave the house.
Honorable Chair, I think you are just being a little bit.
No. That's how I work. I won't allow you to speak. I'm addressing this issue. You will speak after.
What students want to study and how do we channel them, how do we help them want to get into that space?
Almost done with the job of the day. Come on, Mara. Come on, please.
Honorable Ntangwini, we want to proceed.
Was going on fine today, but I left because I had to go to the Chinese embassy. Then I
You
came
must
back.
come join the EFF, that member at the back there. Come join the EFF because you want to tell the EFF.
Honorable Mare, that's a warning. You don't do that. You don't switch on the mic and talk without my permission. You do that again, you will also be taken out. Please,
Honorable Chair,
don't
can I
do that.
put
It's a warning. No. But you don't have to switch on the mic.
Honorable
You
Chair.
can only do that permission. Thank you very much.
Honorable
Honorable Sonyani, what is your point of order?
Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I think the Honorable Chairperson sitting here today was very unfair to the Honorable Ntangwini. Honorable Ntangwini was just simply trying to address a member who
Thank
was
you.
out of order.
Thank you. You may take your seat. That is not allowed. You can't switch on the mic and talk without my permission. Let's proceed. Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I move that the report be adopted. Thank you.
The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections? Without any objections, the report is thus agreed to. We have the secretary now is allowed to read the 17th and the 18th order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development on oversight visit to Guatbu Farms in Eastern Cape Province from 31 January to 4 February 2022. And consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development on oversight visit to Agricultural Research Council and Onderstepoort Biological Products, Gauteng Province on 19 to 22 April 2022.
Sizomukela Inkosi uMandela asinikele umbiko.
In
Inkosi
carrying out
Mandela.
our responsibility, in carrying out our responsibilities as members of parliament, in holding the executive accountable, the portfolio committee conducted an oversight on the Agricultural Research Council, being the ARC, and undersupport biological products being OBP, noting that redistribution is the key driving force behind government's land reform program. The committee's aim on the oversight visit was to ensure that the state release of land contributes to the objectives of our transformative agenda. The committee noted the complex challenges facing the Kwakyu farms, and these include competing land claims by various groupings, including claims by the Amachachu Traditional Council. Despite these challenges, the committee is looking for a speedy resolution to the land impasse in Kwakyu. The prolonged resolution of the land impasse will contribute negatively, not only to the agricultural productivity in the area, but towards the country's food security needs. During the oversight, the Portfolio Committee had engagements with a number of stakeholders, including the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, and through a call for a social compact, a workable and beneficial solution for all can be found. The farming community in Kwakyu needs urgent support, and as one of the community members said, there were only 12 farmers with access to electricity, and some are in need of farming implements such as tractors, repairs of windmills, shearing shed, breeding facilities for livestock, including the provision of government services to the community. Honorable Chairperson, the objective of our oversight visit to the OBP as well as the ARC was to get a first-hand experience of the operational environment and challenges faced by the two entities, as well as the impact on service delivery, including the development and transformation of the agricultural sector. Despite the funding challenges faced by the ARC, the entity intends to offer solutions that address profitability, sustainability, and resilience of the entire food system, including the development of smart farming systems. And this, in the long run, will ensure that our domestic agricultural sector is globally competitive with an increase in our share of the global agricultural market. Small-scale farmers are benefiting from some of the research being done by various units of the ARC, and hereby make mention of Kaonofatso ya Dikgomo on training of farmers on production and processing that enhances their active participation in the meat value chain. We have also observed and taken note of the vaccine production challenge that the OBP is grappling with, and cognizant of the fact that the entity generates about 55% of the revenue from the international markets. With the required assistance and support required, the ARC can take advantage of market niche opportunities presented by the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and its increase in the foreign income revenue. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, the committee makes a recommendation for additional funding to the ARC and calls on various stakeholders to make use of research conducted by the entity. I therefore, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, present the reports on the oversight visit to Kwakyu, the ARC and OBP for the consideration and adoption of the House. I thank you.
Sithokoze Mhlonishwa. The opportunity for declaration is allowed. I'll start with the DA.
House Chairperson, The Gwachu story is a sad tale of broken promises by an uncaring government, a typical strategy of corrupt ANC that is designed to keep the poor even poorer and thus gain control of the majority of citizens of this country by keeping them dependent on meagre handouts disguised as social welfare. The original application to be registered as communal property association was substituted to the department in July 2014. 8 years later, the farm dwellers of Gwachu, who should be protected by IPILRA and the extension of security tenure of Act 62 of 1997, are still destitute. Instead, we are sold a false narrative of Amachachu clan having jurisdiction over Gwachu farm, which are registered under title. The same Amachachu who applied for restitution over the land and failed. The Democratic Alliance does not dispute the chieftaincy of Amachachu. What is questionable and certainly not acceptable is the fact that Gwachu farms are part of the land that Amachachu chief presides over. Why are the descendants of farm labor dwellers in Gwachu treated differently from any other in the country? Why is now the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development dragging its feet in registering the Gwachu Communal Property Association? Why will there be a need for chieftaincy oversight on land that is under title? The Democratic Alliance called for the immediate registration of Gwachu Communal Property Association in order to facilitate transfer of the land to its rightful owners. On the OPP and ARC oversight visits, the committee went a year after the DAMPs conducted their private oversight at this institution. The DAMPs oversight was prompted by farmers' concern regarding the shortage of vaccines, and obviously they had to do this visit. And poor progress that was observed on the upgrade of the GMP and building of the new FMD facility at OBP and ARC respectively. During the committee visit, both institutions has just employed new CEOs. At ARC, the new CEO with PhD in agricultural economics started a month ago. The chairperson of the board is a former HOD of the Western Cape Department of Agriculture. A litany of problems faced by the institution and plans to address them was presented to the portfolio committee. At ARC, the current chair is the acting CEO. He is an accountant with a consulting background. An acting chairperson is a CA. The committee was informed the former CEO was dismissed due to corruption. According to LinkedIn records, this former OBP CEO obtained honors and PhD degree in animal health and vaccinology and is a board member of International Veterinary Vaccinology Network. The case is at CCMA and is still ongoing. OBP leadership informed the committee about several challenges and their efforts to fix them. Members of the committee still flagged the lack of animal health expertise in the management and board as the most considerable risk factor that could jeopardize proposed turnaround strategy. The failure of the board and management to turn around these two institutions poses a big threat to food security and agricultural reforms in this country. We want the ANC government to stop wasting time and taxpayers' money on issues of expropriation of land without compensation, but fix these important institutions that are instrumental for successful land reform and food security. We are going to keep a close watch on this institution. We agree with the recommendation, and 2024, when the Honorable John Steenhuisen take over, we will sort them out. Thank you.
Thank you. The EFF.
Chairperson, the portfolio committee had decided to visit Gwachu to understand the complexity of issues and perhaps to unlock the deadlock that appeared to hamper the department's initiative to resolve the contestation and disputes at Gwachu. However, during the visit, the committee went straight from Queenstown and passed the Guachu farms and spent the whole day with the royal family of the Matanzima and then met with government departments. The following day, the committee came to Guachu farms. Instead of meeting with the former farm workers, the committee went to have a meeting with Mondli Gungubele's uncle, Chief Ngedisi Gungubele, the chief of Amachachu people. It failed to meet with the leadership of the former farm workers who have attempted to register a CPA since 2000. House Chair, as early as 2000, the former Department of Land Affairs in the Eastern Cape had commissioned a land right inquiry in Guachu in an attempt to resolve the land tenure insecurity. Fast forward to 2016, the former minister, Gugilen Quinty, established a ministerial task team, which undertook to register the Guachu CPA by the end of July 2016. To date, the people of Guachu are still waiting, and one can understand the frustration and anger by the community of marginalized people. They are deprived of their own land by the ANC government by refusing to confirm and register the land rights of the people who lived on the Guachu farms for decades. There appears to be attempts to impose the Amachachu Traditional Council of the Abatembu on the people of Guachu. Now, it's important that the chair of the committee came here and misled this house. There are no competing claims, as the chair just said, in Guachu. The Amachachu traditional leadership lost claims on 2 occasions, and their claims failed. Hence, today we hear some desperate members of this committee making some proposals to amend the act in order to accommodate Amachachu to lay claim over the Guachu land. House Chair, we as the EFF in Parliament will not sit in our benches and watch the outgoing ANC government and changes the laws to pursue their agenda of giving land to those that are in their network of patronage. We are therefore calling for the finalization of the registration of the Guachu CPA and the recognition of the land rights of the people of Guachu, in particular the former farm workers who have become farmers in their own rights. The process would require an objective system of adjudicating of existing rights, often overlapping rather than imposing the traditional leaders. Interim Protection of Informal Land Rights Act offers the state legal instruments which the rights can be secured. As far as the visit to the ARC and the OBP is concerned, we welcome the collaboration between the ARC and the OBP in their joint research work with regard to foot and mouth disease outbreak, with the highest concern being the measures in place to control the spread of the disease, which continue to bring the livestock sector to its knees. Biotechnological platform initiatives, where the latter is meant to create the high throughput resources and technology required for applications in genomics, quantitative genetics, maker-assisted breeding, genetic sequencing, and bioinformatics within the agricultural sector. The OBP continues to be the key strategic asset for South Africa, not only in terms of disease control and management, but also in terms of vaccine production, in terms of vaccine products exported to other parts of the world, particularly in the continent. Equally, the ARC should be supported in order to continue to offer scientific solutions that address the deficiencies in quality to produce development of improved cultivars and to provide smart farming systems of farmers using modern technology. The entities should in their endeavor pursue their respective mandates guided by the national priorities as well as the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement to boost intra-Africa trade. The land ownership patterns must reflect the demographics. Hence, we are saying the EFF, we welcome this report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. IFP.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I will make a contribution on behalf of Nkosi Klebekulu, who's having network problems.
Proceed.
Thank you. Honorable Chairperson, what these oversight reports have in common is that they showcase potential. Unfortunately, this potential is not being realized. Complex social issues have halted positive developments amongst the 77 Guachu farms. The future of these farms is clouded by a lack of clarity around land issues, which have inhibited collaboration. Tense relationships between the community and government have been eroded by years of service delivery failures and unemployment. As stated in the report, government must provide clarity with regard to ownership and allocation of the Guachu farms. The IFP recognizes that the situation is complex and the issues of land tenure can take time to resolve. Therefore, a time-bound plan is vital to community-government relations. The authority of the department must be used responsibly, Honorable Chairperson, to facilitate community meetings that will ensure that future development in this area is as inclusive as possible. Projects such as the installation of fencing to prevent accidents and the implementation of skills development programs should be initiated with immediate effect, as these practical interventions provide the opportunity for immediate gains. While the potential of the Guachu farms remains unmet due to complex social issues, the problems facing both the Agricultural Research Council, the ARC, and the Under-Supported Biological Products, OBP, are predominantly that of infrastructure and funding. Money is being unwisely spent on importing costly equipment instead of the development of local technology.
Honorable Mrwatsehla. No, I warn you first, I don't just remove. Proceed, Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Laboratories are in need of upgrades, and the value of the research and technical innovations is not being realized. Aged infrastructure is hindering modernization and must be seen as an unacceptable setback. Funding from the National Treasury is required for the modernization and maintenance of vaccine production. This funding has the potential to extend the provision of vaccines even to vulnerable subsistence farmers. Marketing is needed for the ARC's excellent work. The most feasible and inexpensive way to do this would be for the department to support the national use of these innovations. Chairperson, this will provide evidence of the quality of these innovations and make them marketable on an international scale. In the context of institutional failure, the ARC and OBP are both institutions that South Africa could be extremely proud of. If correctly supported, they have the potential to showcase in domestic markets as well as on international scale what South Africa has to offer in the sector.
Thank you.
We will support the report, provided it is time-bound. Thank you.
Thank you. FF Plus.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I don't need to say a lot about our oversight to Guachu. What we saw was quite clear, and a few things became more apparent as the week went on. The department has failed in its mandate of land reform and rural development. Silo working of departments is the enemy, and corrupt officials do not help people, only themselves. Our oversight to Under-Supported Biological Products and the Agricultural Research Council was actually very insightful. For the first time since the start of the 6th Parliament, I got a sense that the entities took the committee into their confidence and was honest with us regarding the challenges they face. One story sticks out in my mind, and it speaks to the institutional issues we face in not only the entities of agriculture, but government-wide. The new COO of OBP, whom at that stage had not even completed his first 6 months at the entity, told us that big issues like the FMD facility and increased vaccine productions are still in the process of being addressed because small issues had to be addressed first. These small issues, however, cause very big problems. One such issue was working hours. The COO had to spend his first 6 months explaining that when business hours start at 8 a.m., you need to be in the office by that time. It's actually quite ridiculous, but speaks to the mediocrity that our departments and their entities strive towards. During another incident of employees not doing their job, the OBP burnt out a machine that halted vaccine production. An oversight that was easily corrected had the employee only turned the tap of a valve shut after emptying it. Not rocket science either, Chair. I can go on to tell you of the state-of-the-art laboratory equipment that has stood scattered and unaccounted for under 20 centimeters of bird droppings around the OBP premises without an asset register for 7 years, while the FMD facility is still not built and FMD is running rife in our country. Or of the state-of-the-art labs at the ARC that the department refuses to use and instead contracts work out because of personal issues between the minister and the ARC management. Chairperson, I am worried about both the ARC and the OBP, but for two very different reasons. The ARC has some of the best researchers South Africa has to offer, but they are aging. There is no assistance or plan to encourage young people to pursue a career in research. Without an active campaign to involve young researchers and to ensure skills are transferred in a few years, we will have lost a very good entity. The OBP are on a downward trajectory, and if the department doesn't ensure that those people at OBP that want to make a difference are empowered, we will have no vaccine production and the country might as well close its agricultural doors. We can see that with the recent strikes at OBP. But let me conclude. I'm worried about agriculture, land reform, and rural development. I'm worried that this department is politicking whilst the people are suffering. Hierdie departement gaan ook sy sokkies erg moet optrek. Ek dankie.
Thank you. UDM, ATM, Good, NFP, AIC, COPE, PAC, Al-Jama, ANC.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, the African National Congress supports a report on the oversight visit to Guachu farms in the Eastern Cape and the Agricultural Research Council, as well as OBP in Gauteng province from the 31st of January to the 4th of February, and between the 19th and the 22nd of April 2022, respectively. Honorable Chairperson, the Portfolio Committee had an oversight visit to the province of the Legends, the Eastern Cape in Chris Hani district, to be precise. The anchor of the oversight visit was twofold. Firstly, to overseeing the executive action and fostering accountability, and secondly, to gather facts about the ongoing competing claims to the land of Guachu. The overarching aim of the visit to Guachu, in addition to enforcing accountability of the executive, was to ensure that the state land release project of the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development contributes to acceleration of the redistribution of the land to the landless poor and enhance security of tenure for farmers and or households occupying the land. Just to give a quick brief on the complaint of Guachu. In 2019, the Portfolio Committee received a complaint from people of Guachu regarding the land ownership. The Portfolio Committee then took the matter to the department for investigation and further actioning. Therefore, the visit to Guachu was a follow-up on the work meant to be done by the department as part of our oversight responsibility. Chairperson, the visit then focused on the following: the monitoring process that the department had been facilitating to resolve the Guachu land issue. Secondly, assessing the effects of government intervention, as well as soliciting a bottom-up solution from stakeholders and all role players. Honorable Chairperson, at the center of challenges of people of Guachu is the ownership and allocation of the Guachu farms, or lack thereof, to the Amachachu Traditional Council at the time of its re-establishment and recognition by the Eastern Cape government. Honorable Chairperson, as the ANC, we remain focused and hopeful that the department will find an everlasting solution aligning with available legislation. We have noted that some of the farm workers in Guachu have established a community property association though not yet registered. As ANC, we would like to see the democratization of functioning and administration of the CPAs. Honorable Chairperson, we are encouraged that the introduction of the communal land tenure, as well as a beneficiary selection and land allocation policy, will contribute meaningfully to the enhancement of the land tenure system, including the insurance that the land will be given to those who work it and be able to use it productively. The leadership of the CPA must at all times put the interests of the community and its members before its own. As indicated by the Portfolio Committee, there is a need to involve the committee in finding solutions to problems that behest them. Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Sipa comes here on the podium and mislead the House that we went there with an intention of handing over the land to the traditional leadership. In actual fact, Honorable Masipa must indicate to this House that they went there with an intention of creating confusion amongst communities of Guachu. They went there with a perception, because they undermine traditional leaders, They undermine the traditional leadership of Gwachu. They decided to stand on the side, to choose a side and stand on the side of the unregistered CPA. So they must not come here and grandstand and mislead the House, including Honorable Montwedi. Honorable Montwedi comes here to the House and speak about the 1930 Land Act. When we were in Section 25, EFF was vehement on the removal of the 1930 land cut-off date. Today he comes there and says we must not remove it. Where are we, Kanyegai? Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson, as we move towards the report on the ARC, Lalo, at the ARC and the OBP, we monitored the progress being made on the establishment of the foot and mouth disease facility and construction of the Grand Manufacturing Practice Project. This year, we had an outbreak of FMD in many of our provinces, with the highest recorded number of outbreaks in KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State. The outbreak of the FMD, which is the foot and mouth disease, has a negative impact on the sector and our slow-growing economy. Even though our country is not food insecure, climate change poses a direct threat to our food security. We are greatly encouraged by the hopeful commitment by the ARC to offer scientific solutions that will address profitability, sustainability, and resilience to the entire food system in our country. In conclusion, Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson, in order to place agriculture on a higher economic pedestal, we need to ensure that the research output and the broader work conducted by the ARC gets to reach and be used by all relevant government departments, all spheres of government, SOEs and farmers, but equally gets to be used productively by small-scale farmers, and this can best be assisted through the district development model. We are encouraged by the mobile plant health clinic that enables the ARC researchers to be able to reach the most remote areas and to facilitate plant health diagnostic services to smallhold farmers. As the ANC, we support the tabling of these reports on our oversight visit. Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you. Can we be guided by the Chief Whip of the majority party on what to do with the reports?
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. I move that the report be adopted by the House. Enforce.
The motion is that the reports be adopted. Are there any objections? No objections agreed to. I will now ask the House that they can go home. The business is concluded. The House is adjourned.
Long live the chair.
Long live the chair.